Welcome back. This is the Pirates of the Wild West podcast, where I talk about pirates of the Caribbean and the ones that were the most famous during the Golden Age. I'm also talking about the book that I wrote, and I'm excited to give you an update on that. So I have done, so the book's finished, so I did a bunch of queries to agents, and that actually isn't going too bad. I have several agents that have sent back a request for either 3 chapters or the whole manuscript. So that's exciting. So those have been all sent back and returned to those agents, and hopefully they're busy at work reading my stuff. Yeah, I don't know. One could hope. So this podcast, we're going to be talking about the pirate Henry Jennings. Now, Henry Jennings is actually sort of one of the, I don't want to, kind of a villain in my book. He's kind of the antagonist of Blackbeard and of Hornigold. And this was true back in real life, that Henry Jennings was on one side of the Pirate Republic, and Hornigold was on the other side with his compatriots, which were Black Sam Bellamy and Blackbeard. So on Henry Jennings' side, you had Charles Vane and Calico Jack. Those were on those. That's kind of where the split happened. And so Henry Jennings is a very interesting pirate, because as you look back at who this man was with the information that's available, it's kind of a wonder why Henry Jennings chose piracy, because all of the evidence suggests that Henry Jennings was actually a wealthy landowner in Bermuda with a family of high stature. But yet here we find him in Nassau, raiding sunken ships, and in turn also taking ships as well as time goes on. He was one of the pirates that was known for violence and poor treatment of not only the people that he captured, but also the people that were underneath him as the sailors and the pirates that were working on his ships. So let me give you just a little bit more background on him. So he was he started out as a privateer during the War of Spanish Succession between 1701 and 1714. And he operated out of Jamaica, which was governed by Lord Archibald Hamilton. So he actually, I think, became friends with Hamilton. And the reason I say that is that, well, we'll get to that, but I believe that he was feeding coin to Hamilton from his pirate raid, so that Hamilton would support him in this, and if he were to err on the side of piracy, that Hamilton would be able to kind of be an in-between and keep the crown off of Henry Jennings' back. So Jennings was a mentor to Charles Vane, who we've talked about before on another podcast, who was a rather hot-headed, violent pirate leader. Jennings kind of took Vane underneath his wing in some aspects and kind of helped him along, giving him ships from time to time to do some raiding. And he was just like he was like a useful tool to Jennings. I don't think Jennings really cared too much about Vane, but definitely used the man to do some of the evil, I say evil, some of the piratey deeds that Jennings needed to have done. So he started off, Jennings started off with a salvage run to this Spanish treasure fleet that had sunk off of the, I forget where this was, off the coast, I think, of Florida. And Jennings, through Archibald Hamilton, had secured himself a 80-ton sloop. It's called the Bathsheba. And about 1715, he sailed that out to this wreck of the Spanish treasure fleet. Now, the interesting thing about this is the Spanish were trying to get the treasure. They were diving this wreck so that they could get the treasure and transport it back to Spain. So they were also trying to fight off other pirates, salvagers, the Spanish were, that were trying to take that gold and silver that the Spanish had sunk on their ships. So they had like these salvage camps set up around the wreck on the land. And so when people like Jennings or Vane or others came into that area, they would defend their ships that had sunk. And so it was not an easy thing for even a pirate to go out and dive those wrecks. So so Jennings goes out there, and he's having trouble because it's not easy to get to those wrecks underneath the water. So instead of trying to get the treasure out of the sunken ships, he decides to do an all-out assault on the Spanish salvage camp. And he's successful in this. He steals 87,000 in gold and silver from the salvage camp. And then he returns to Jamaica with this loot to split it with not only his pirates, but also Hamilton. Now, the Spanish, they're pissed. And this ends up being like, this is illegal because Britain and Spain were at peace at this time. So the Spanish go back to the British crown and cry foul. And then the word gets back to Hamilton, because they know that Jennings was working with Hamilton. And so there's like this back and forth, and basically because Hamilton is paid off by Jennings, he protects Jennings. So Jennings doesn't get arrested in Jamaica, but you know that's it's getting the heat's getting turned up on Hamilton, because he is feeling the hurt from the crown over this, and he sends Jennings off to try to make peace with the crown and gets him out of the Jamaican area. So then Jennings ends up coming back over to the Caribbean coast, and he's right around Cuba, and Jennings spots Sam Bellamy and Paul Graves William. Sam Bellamy is one of the pirates that we talked about on another podcast. Well, these guys are looting a ship off of the coast of Cuba. So these guys are this is at the beginning of their pirate run. So they have just like small sailing canoes, and they have stopped this ship off the coast of Cuba, and they're looting it when Jennings comes up. Now they get scared because Jennings actually is flying the British colors. So he's flying the British flags, and so Paul Graves and Sam Bellamy, they sail away in their canoes. Now, the ship that they were looting is captained by a man named Young, and he's expecting Jennings to rescue him, right? But Jennings instead commandeers the ship and then begins moving it into the bay, trying to decide what to do with it. So he takes it over, right? And so then in that process, his fleet encounters a large armed merchant ship flying French colors in this harbor that he had moved to. This ship's called the Saint Marie. Now, Jennings drops anchor, and he kind of heads out of sight. He sends several of his men to hail that French ship to assess kind of like what's on board. You know, like, are they carrying treasure, or is it, you know, what kind of goods are on there? And then he decides after that that night that he would attack, so that they can kind of sneak up on this French ship, right? So that's the plan. But then that evening, Bellamy and Paul Graves, they come back. They hail Jennings, right? So they're in their canoes, and they're like, let's join forces. We'll help you in this sneak attack against the Saint Marie, right? So then that happens that night. And Jennings then questions the French crew, right? And then here's one of the accounts that kind of lead us to believe that Jennings was, not a nice fellow at all. So this French captain of the Saint Marie reports that Jennings had tortured his crew, forcing them to reveal that they had hidden like 30,000 pieces of eight on shore near where they were harbored. Okay, so then this is all going on, and then this sailing canoe approaches the Saint Marie to trade, while Jennings and his crew are dividing the spoils, right? And then Jennings commandeers this canoe as well, and once again he's like inflicting pain and torture on these new people that were just coming to trade with the Santa Maria, right? This crew of this little trading vessel, to save themselves, they tell Jennings that there's another ship that he should go after called the Marianne, and that it has lots of treasure on it. So then Jennings takes off in search of this Marianne. Well, he comes upon this ship and he finds that Benjamin Hornigold has already commandeered this ship, that he's kind of beat Jennings to it. So then Jennings takes off, setting sail in the Bathsheba to track down Hornigold. He wants to then capture Hornigold and this ship so that he can have it for himself. Now, the crew, including Bellamy and Williams, that he had kind of tied himself with, leave the Saint Maria behind, right? So that Jennings can go capture Hornigold, right? So Jennings spends a few days chasing him, but Hornigold ends up getting away. And so Jennings has to turn around and come back, and to his surprise, Sam Bellamy and Paul Graves William have taken the Santa Maria. They took off. They took off with the treasure and the ship, and then left all of the French prisoners there on the little island where they had buried, where they had hidden those pieces of eight that Jennings had been searching for. So Jennings actually arrives just in time to see Bellamy sailing away with the Santa Maria. And so then he gives chase to them, but still he's not able to catch them. So in this little adventure that poor Jennings had undertaken, he is stuck with basically nothing. He missed out on Hornigold's find, right? And then Sam and Paul Graves steal the Saint Marie right out from under him and take all of the gold. And he is furious. So Bellamy had a couple other boats that had been sitting there, because he remember he had those sailing canoes. And so in a fit of rage, Jennings just cut those things to pieces, sunk all that stuff. And that there was some of Bellamy's men that had remained around the area or on board those ships. Well, he slaughtered them. He killed them. He killed the French. He killed the Englishmen. Anybody who was involved in this that he could catch, they all went down over under Jennings' sword. Yes, not a happy camper, that guy. So then he orders his fleet to set sail to Nassau to divide what the remaining spoils that he has. And when he gets to Nassau, of course, Hornigold is there. This is a point of contention. There's two of them, both have their members of their own little pirate republic that are loyal to them. And so there's a lot of animosity between these two groups. But they're all pirates. And the two, these two captains, even though they don't like each other, they're all kind of based out of this Nassau area. And, you know, who knows exactly if there was any altercations there. There's no record of it, but you can tell that things were not going too well for Jennings and Hornigold. They were not going to become friends. And so then later on, when in 1718, when there's the pardon, right, for the king, he sends a pardon out to Nassau with Woodes Rogers to offer clemency to the pirates. Jennings is one of the first ones to take this. You know, he's, once again, as I said, supposedly he's a wealthy landowner, so I don't know why he was doing all of this stuff anyway. Maybe just for the adventure of it, or to serve some bloodlust. But he quickly takes that pardon from Woodes, and he surrenders himself, and Bermuda, doesn't go back to Jamaica, but Bermuda is where his family is from. And so then, you know, since he's got family ties there, he pretty much just kind of disappears into history after that. Like, is he captured? So there's some rumors there that the Spanish end up finding him and imprisoning him for the rest of his life because of his attack on the Spanish treasure salvage camps. But other than rumors, there's no evidence of that. He just basically just disappears into history. Hornigold, of course, he takes the pardon as well and becomes basically a pirate hunter at that point. So those two kind of like chose the same path in the end, but Jennings disappearing and Hornigold still sailing off to clean up, I guess, the mess that was made through all of this stuff. Hunting pirates, yeah, that's not good. Go from a pirate to a pirate hunter. I mean, there's no worse scum than that, as you can imagine, right? So so that's Henry Jennings. So in my book, he is a spoiler for Henry Jennings. I mean, for Hornigold. He's an antagonist to Blackbeard, and the premise of my pirate book, Pirates of the Wild West, is these pirates gets transported to the Wild West, 1873. And so they have to figure out how to make it in that world with an advance in technology, especially in weaponry. You know, you're coming from the 1700s and you have these flintlock pistols, and firing one shot, difficult to reload, takes some time. And then in 1773, you've got revolvers and action rifles, you know, like pump action rifles, and many bullets that can be fired all at the same time without having to reload your gun. So a lot of changes, but yet still, it's not like there's cell phones or planes or things like that. So it's not completely out of like a fantasy world for them. They just are able to see that there is a technological difference from the 1700s. And so that's it. That's for Henry Jennings, a very interesting and very confusing pirate to figure out exactly like what was his motivations and why he did the things that he did. And yeah, a lot of speculation that goes along with that guy, but interesting character for sure. Now, I'd like to talk a little bit about the release of this book. Obviously, I'm trying to get a agent, and so I have to go through that. If an agent doesn't surface within the next probably 3 months, if I don't have any good route to have a traditional publishing route, then I will self-publish it, and it'll be on Amazon Kindle and wherever else I can figure out how to self-publish. But I'm giving myself about 3 months, so a little bit, maybe like February is when my decision has to be made, and then I'll keep, if anybody's interested, I'll keep you updated. You can find me on Facebook if you look up Dark Gravity Studios. I'll show up there, as well as my name, Bryan Cantrell, and also Pirates of the Wild West. I made a Facebook page for that. So if you have a moment It'd be great to connect with you. Obviously, if you're listening to this, you're a pirate fan like me. And I will be back for just a couple more podcasts because I'm only going to do this for just the characters that are in this book. And thanks so much for listening. I hope you go out there, live the life of a pirate, and we'll talk real soon.